lost somebody. Never said it's easy. This is Rain Check Live. It's just a little true story about our life and our faith.
I'm Sharon. I'm a mother. I'm a court officer. I'm a senior court officer. I'm a preacher. But mom is one of my greatest accomplishments.
I'm Mike. I'm Ty's brother. So I guess that we're supposed to be talking about life after death. So when I first got the call that he had gotten stabbed, I didn't really believe there was anything that was going to be tragic or anything that would be, that it was a life-threatening situation. My first reaction was that, okay, so, he's going to be in the hospital, he's going to get better. This happened upstate, so I was in Bronx at the time. So I got the call, I went upstate, and he was in a coma. He was in a coma for a few days, I don't remember how many days. But, we kept the faith.
And I like the combination between my husband and myself, what we made, which are those children. So when I think about Loren and her being a special ed teacher and her going to school and getting 2 masters and mastering in English and special education, the joy that she has is helping the children, is bringing children up, bringing their grades up, just helping them to be accomplished people. And that's, she's always a teacher. And Michael's in social work, and he works at a shelter, for homeless people with special disadvantages. Either they are addicted, drugs, alcohol, mental illnesses. And when I think about Michael, I think about him always helping special people. And when I think about TYSHAWN, it makes me think about his father in basketball, and it makes me think about Loren and the way he was teaching people. It makes me think about Michael and his social work aspects and how he cared about people. And it makes me think about myself being a preacher and how TYSHAWN was ministering to people, helping people that was in need. And that's basically what ministry means, helping someone in need. So TYSHAWN was a combination of all of us. So I'm grateful for each and every one of my children. So I always say I have 3 children because I still have 3 children. And basically that's an honor for me to be a mother. And it was an honor for me to be a wife. It's an honor for me to be a court officer. It's an honor for me to be a preacher. So I'm just honored for what God is doing in my life. And I'm really honored for the way he allowed me to raise these 3 children. And that TYSHAWN did make it to 22, that he was over 21, and he was a growing man. 4 hours or 4.5 hours away when TYSHAWN got stabbed. And being so far away from him, that creates a problem because as a mother, you want to protect your children. I mean, it's a mother's instinct. You know, the mother bear, she protects the cubs. You know, the mother bird, you see her feeding her children and then letting them go out to fly. So I always felt like, you know what, I'm not there. But what kept me rooted and grounded was prayer. What kept me rooted and grounded was the word of God. Because when I got that information, when Debbie called me and said that Rain called her, that TYSHAWN got stabbed, and she said, you're going to have to pray because she didn't really know what to do or how to handle them. I had enough peace within me to pray because really my hope was there. So I didn't panic, and my granddaughter, Anaya, was in the bed right next to me, and I remember her saying, now she is 10 years younger than TYSHAWN. She said, Grandma, if that was me, I would be going crazy right now. It's a good thing that you're a minister. And I said, why you said that? She said, because if somebody stabbed my child, I'll be going crazy. Now this is a young child experiencing me getting a telephone call. But she's seeing how I handled it. And how I handled it was with prayer. Inside of me, I knew I had to dig deep within in order to pray, in order to stay focused, in order to help other people. So as I was trying to control the situation in Delhi, I know that my control and my strength comes from God, because I was able to do that. In fact, I felt that something was going to go wrong that night, and I was supposed to be at the pastor's anniversary banquet, and I was on the program, and I told Debbie I'm not going. I can't go because I just felt uneasy. So I took off all the clothes and I laid down. I read a book. Another thing that's ironic, but there's no coincidence in Christ. A book that a preacher had sent me that I met in the grand jury, and it was about violence. It was about inner city violence. And I was reading that book, and I got that book on that night, that Saturday night. And when TYSHAWN got stabbed, it was early Sunday morning, and it was April 26th. April 26th is my anniversary. My husband died in 2001. So, I mean, being a single parent and then taking on that responsibility of stepping up in every situation, I also thought about I wouldn't want my husband to be here when his son passed away. So see, my emotions is like back and forth because I'm always thinking about somebody else. Like I could have felt into, oh, I wish my husband was here. But then I said, no, you know, I'm glad he's not here because I wouldn't want him to go through this. And I wouldn't know how he was going to respond to this, and how much hurt and pain he would feel. And then as a mother, I'm saying, you know what, I can't be right there. But I know that prayers transcends over highways and byways. So I'm grateful because when I got there, when my sister and my cousin and their husbands was driving me, I prayed all the way, non-stop, 4 hours or 4.5 hours, praying. And God did give me some situations like of preparation in that situation, I should say. As I prayed, I felt like something wasn't right. And I said it out loud. I said, God, you gotta be kidding me. What? And then I didn't want to say it anymore because I was still thinking about my sisters and their husbands. So I wanted to keep hope alive for everybody else. But there were certain situations that premonitions and preparations and discernment from the Holy Spirit that let me know that this wasn't good. This wasn't looking good. But the only way I can hold it together was because God was holding me together. And I credit that with the experience of being in His Word, of walking in His way, and doing the best I can to press to the high calling of Christ Jesus. So because of the Bible, because of my relationship with Christ, because of the practice of putting the word in practice, of walking the walk, it did give me some preparation. And because of my background, I mean, from growing up, always being out front, being in charge, leading people, guiding people, it was something that I would do automatically. And that's what I did. I just had to take the bull by the horns and step up and go to the front and do what I had to do to keep everybody else together. And basically, that's what I do. I keep people together.
for the first year after that, everything that takes place is hard. The first holiday, the person's birthday, a lot of little, you know, like spring or summer, you remember what y'all used to do in the summer, or so the first year or two is very difficult to get through, but everybody has their different coping mechanisms. My coping mechanism, in a way, is I kind of avoid thinking about it, avoid feelings that may make me feel uncomfortable. So, you know, I stay busy and stay mentally preoccupied, and that way you don't think about the person or the death or the situation that it was, because you have a lot of questions like, what could you have done differently? If you could turn back time, you can't turn back time. So you gotta learn to push on.
Speaking about grief and helping people, it's only God that helps me to forgive anybody. First of all, I wasn't born like this. People have said that, you know, oh, you was born like that, that's why you can do it. That's a lie. I was born again, that's why I can do it. I want to follow Jesus, and I want to do what Jesus did. And that is a blessing. When you do what Jesus does, when he tells you to do, even when it's hard, there's a reason for it. So the first thing that Jesus said on the cross is, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So when I was going to court to see the kid that stabbed my son 11 times in the heart and the lungs, and I made my statement, I got up and I said that. And I told him to look at me, because prior to that, he wasn't looking at me. He was trying to play hard, and he had an attitude, and I could pick that up. I discerned that he had attitude. Most of the times I was going to court, I was going by myself. But when people found out I was going by myself, there was a small amount of people that did come with me. I didn't want a group. I didn't want this to be in the newspaper. I didn't want it to be like a publicity thing, because this was really personal to me. And I'm protecting my son and his legacy. I don't want to be blown up like this and that. You know, I don't want him to be a superhero. He's already a hero to me. So in any event, when I went to court and I told this kid, now when I'm making this statement, look at me. You have to look at me because I'm talking to you. And I said to him right at that point, when you stabbed my son 11 times in the heart and the chest, you stabbed me. You stabbed the community. You hurt his sister, you hurt his brother, you hurt our family, you hurt the community, you hurt his friends. And what you need to see is that if you want to be saved, it only takes 8 seconds, 8 minutes. You got 8 years, only 8 years. You're still going to come out and be a young man. That's up to you. If you want somebody to help you, Google my name and I'll help you, because I forgive you. And at that point, I said I forgive him. 8 years goes by. 8 years goes by. Nobody notifies me about anything. And then the Holy Spirit pricks me at work. I'm sitting in the courtroom. I'm saying, like, you know what? It's almost time for that kid to get out. So I call, I forgot what you call it when the victim like services. I called them and she says, oh, nobody notified you, parole, anything? I said, no, nobody notified me. So I make the appropriate calls and I find out that he's getting out and they tell me he did well. You know, I'm like, yeah, that's good, but that's not what I'm talking about. You should have notified me. The Holy Spirit dealt with me, and that forgiveness thing had not finished. I needed to see that kid. So I asked one of the law secretaries to find out where he was, you know, give me the information. I got the information. And I made up my mind I was going, and I was going to go by myself. Then, you know, I said maybe I should let somebody go with me. I called Theo's mom, Debbie, to drive me, because she usually drives me, and she was going away. There was something going on that time. And passed away, and his wife, they was going away at that time. And I said, you know what? I'm still going. But then there's a stubborn part of me that I have to check. You know, God checks me. That's why you have to look within and evaluate yourself. Like, now, this is the flesh getting in the way. Like, I'm going to do it now. So I chilled and I waited. And when Pastor Wade gave back, he said he's going to take me. And it was a blessing because I needed him to take me. Because I'm not a man. I tell everybody that all the time. I needed a man to talk to this kid after I spoke to him. So we went to corrections, and when they asked me, what is he to me? For me to get in, because imagine nobody knows I'm coming. I didn't know what to say, so I said a friend. When they asked Pastor Wade, he said an acquaintance. I said, oh, well, I should have said acquaintance. Then the correction officer looks up the information, and she's happy, and she says, oh, he's coming out soon. And I said, yes, that's nice, because they didn't know who I was. So I went in, and I'm waiting for him. I didn't really know what he looked like, but they had just took him back up. But anyway, he wasn't down there when all the other people was down there. So then when Pastor Wade asked me, is this him, is that him? I said, I don't know. I just know what he looked like basically 8 years ago, but I'm sure he must have been lifting weights. I'm sure he's a little bit stronger, but I have an idea. So, I mean, we had to wait for about an hour, and other people are visiting, and different people are coming close to me, and I'm thinking that's him. Then when this kid came down, I knew it was him, because he stopped short, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, come here. And he said, Miss Bierria, you look the same. He said, you look the same. And I said, have a seat. What happened? You see, this forgiveness thing would have not been completed if I didn't see him again. Now, I'm telling you, it's not like I want to have dinner with him. It's not like I'm trying to be his best friend. I mean, I've heard of cases, because I'm a preacher and I'm a Christian. I've heard of cases where people, you know, they even like practically adopt the people. I didn't feel like that. You know, I'm not going to try to blow this up like, you know, oh, it was this, it was that. No, I really didn't want to talk to this guy. But I had to talk to this guy because I'm doing what Christ would do. And remember, I said we got to go out of the walls to bring them in. So I had to go out of the walls into the jail walls and talk to this kid. So when I'm talking to this kid and we going back and forth, I said, wait a minute. He said, I look the same. He saw the purple. He said, you got on purple. So that tells me that he got some of my history. Maybe he did Google it. Maybe he did look it up. Maybe somebody gave him information. But then again, TYSHAWN is very popular. People knew about the purple. So now when he says to me that I look the same, I tell him have a seat. I said, what happened? He said, your son didn't have anything to do with it. I said, I knew that. And I've been saying that for 8 years. I knew that. But I'm asking you what happened, because I want to hear it from you. And he apologized, and I saw the remorse, and I believed him that he was very sorry. He said he didn't know TYSHAWN had died, because when he left, TYSHAWN wasn't looking like, you know, it seemed like he was all right to him. So he had no idea when he left that TYSHAWN had passed away, but or would pass away, I should say. But I talked to this guy, and I talked for about an hour, and that's why I always have water, because when I start talking, as you can see, I can just talk. So I'm talking to him, you know, we talking, and I'm listening to, and I'm telling him what I think he needs to know, and I'm telling him I know that you probably think that you was away from your child, and that your child missed a lot of parts of his life and your life while you was in here, right? And he said, yes. I said, wrong, because you wasn't a man when you came in here. You had nothing to teach that child. 8 years ago, you stabbed somebody. That's who you was. 8 years from now, I've been praying for you. And I told you in that courtroom, I'm the only one that prayed for you. So I had to come back here and see you. But you know what? I forgive you, and I can tell you that again in your face. He said a big weight was lifted off of him. And you seen it come down. You seen the release. You seen him free. I seen his face change. You know, it's like your complexion even changes, because there's something clearer when the Holy Spirit frees you. And then Pastor Wade said to me, you set him free before he even got out. And I said to him, what are you doing in your life? And he told me he was doing the jail program. You know, it's something like a scared straight type of situation, I would think, where people come in, or he tells them about jail. And lo and behold, that's what I was talking about. Jail is not glamorous. Jesus is necessary, gentlemen. and girls. So he was doing this. He was doing Jing ministry without knowing he was doing Jing ministry. And if he didn't know, because who knows, maybe he saw it on the website. But anyway, I'm talking with him, and we're talking, and he's telling me what he's going to do. I said, what are you going to do when you leave here? I said, do you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ? He said he reads the Bible. He said he had came up Catholic, and he told me about his parents. He told me a little bit about his life. And I said, well, listen, what is your relationship with God now? And I talked so much that, you know, my mouth was getting dry, and then I said to him, you know what, I'm gonna go drink some water. I asked him if he wants something to drink, if I could buy him something. He didn't want anything, he didn't take anything from me. And I said, it's not like I want to take a picture of you. I told him that straight, no chaser. I said, because you know what, you killed my son. But God loves you. This is not me. God loves you. Because God loves you, and because I am a disciple and I'm disciplined enough to do what God tells me to do, then I got to introduce you to Jesus Christ. So he told me a little bit about what he's doing, but I said, do you have a real relationship? I said, I'm going in the bathroom, and I looked at Pastor Wade, and he led him to Christ. He led him to Christ while I was in the bathroom. I just set it up, and I went in the bathroom, and he did that. Because sometimes you can act like you can do all of these things. Sometimes you want to pray for people, to bless them, but you know deep in your heart, it's hard for you to see them blessed. But I knew what my assignment was. I knew what my mission was. So when I went to the bathroom, when I came out, he had received the Lord Jesus Christ. And I told him, I said, you know what, I can't talk to you like a man. Talk to him. He's a man. But I can talk to you like a mother. When I finished talking to that kid, there was a couple there, I guess it was about my age, and she said, oh, I saw you talking with your son. They thought that that boy was my son. That's how much passion God had given me to give to that kid, that they thought our in-depth conversation was between a mother and a son. And when I told them who I was to him, they couldn't believe it. Then they started praising God, because they said they was praying for pastors on their way there, that they had an assignment to pray for pastors. So they was praying for me under the umbrella of a pastor, and then they saw me in there talking to a kid, and they thought that kid was my son. So when we left and we parted ways, I just told him some things that he needed to do for himself and for his son. I haven't heard from him, but if he calls me or if he looks me up or something, I mean, I'll answer that call, because you cannot move forward. I had to forgive him from day one, because if I ever walked around with that kind of weight on me, I couldn't have pressed forward. Because you see, through this trial, there's triumph. We are coming through, and through this pain, it was for a purpose. Through this suffering, I gained strength. So it's not much that anybody can do to me or say to me after I dealt with what I dealt with. When people tell me I can't forgive, I forgive this God. When people tell me I can't go through something, my son died, and I have to live. And I'm going to live out that legacy that TYSHAWN would have lived out. He gave it to me, and I'm going to keep on moving with it. So that means I'm concerned about children with no fathers, because TYSHAWN's dad died when he was 15, and he was concerned about that. I'm concerned about people out there committing crimes. So I need to go out in the streets sometimes. I'm concerned about young people not going to church. So I have to be in the pulpit too, and I have to spread the word on the streets. So what I'm telling you is that if you're going under any type of hurt, pain, or pressure, you need a purpose. You need to flip that and use it for the glory of God, because that will strengthen you. And as God strengthens you, you can strengthen someone else. Because of these funerals back to back to back, because people call me to do funerals, because funerals has become a ministry since my son passed away. I mean, people are going through a hard life. That has become a ministry since my son passed away. So all I can say to people that there is a purpose for your pain. You can grow through it, but you are going to have some pain. But it is for a purpose. There is going to be some hard times, but you got to get away. The way I balance it is I got to come away. I got to stay in that word. I praise my way through it. I pray my way through it. And I make sure I have some quiet time. Balances and boundaries, baby. Balances and boundaries, baby. I'll always miss my son. He'll always be right here. It's never going to be easy. It's always going to be hard. It's always going to be a bitter pill to swallow. But knowing that I know where he resides, the memories, the precious memories, the things that people tell me, it's like wherever I go, people say, are you TYSHAWN's mom? Am I TYSHAWN's mom? That's who I am to some people. I'm TYSHAWN's mom. And I'll be here to represent him to the day I'm gone. Look up and stay focused. Balances and boundaries, baby. Balances and boundaries.
All right. So, this happened 10 years ago. In that 10 years, you know, I've had others pass, none that have hit me the way that my brothers did. So there's a lot that goes into that as far as how you deal with death in the future or with others.
A lot of ministries under the umbrella of PAL, Pastor on Wheels, Loyal Tie Foundation, instead of loyalty, Loyal Tie, capital T-Y, for TYSHAWN, Jing Jing Ministries, Jail is Not Glamorous, Jesus is Necessary, Gentlemen and Girls. And basically, it was at TYSHAWN's wake when I got up and I spoke and I said, I have to come out of these walls to bring them in, because we can look after our own children, but who is going to look after the children that's killing our children? We have to do some preventive medicine. And these are some of the things that I was thinking about Jing Jing prior to TYSHAWN's death, to just come against bling bling. Because I was a warden in the grand jury in Brooklyn for 12 years, and while I was doing that, I was thinking about bling bling and the crime and young people coming through the grand jury, and then God gave me that acronym, Jing Jing. And with that, I thought about it a lot, but it was birthed upon his death. So that was one of the first things that TYSHAWN's death brought forward. That was something fresh, something new that came directly from his death. And immediately I got a website at that time, and immediately I got a P.O. box at that time. So birthed some things in me that came from him. So the same way I was giving birth to TYSHAWN when he was in the womb was the same way some of this ministry was in my womb. And that came forward. The fruit came after TYSHAWN's ascension.
Experiencing that death, my brother's death, was a kind of turning point to where I stopped taking life or certain things in life for granted, because tomorrow's not promised to anyone. And when you see somebody that you never expected would not be there, is no longer there, it kind of hits you. Like, I can be gone any minute. You don't know the day, you don't know the hour, anything can happen, and that could be your last day on earth. So you gotta live to your fullest. If you see someone that needs help, you give them help. Because at the end of the day, only what you do for others, or only what you do for society as a whole, is what you leave behind.
I have to smile when I reminisce and think about myself, because I have to smile about myself and laugh about myself. When I was 10 years old, I started a group called the Barbettes, and they told me that I changed the group to Sharon and the Barbettes. I thought it was always Sharon and the Barbettes, but they reminded me that I changed it. But I changed it to Sharon and Barbettes because I started the group. I was the choreographer. I was designing outfits. I was teaching them the steps, and I was so serious about it. So when I'm talking about being up front, that's not new. I was always doing that, like since elementary school. And then when I started a club, it was the Soul Sisters. Then we got Afros, and it was the Afro Queens. And then my nickname was Cheap Chick. So I was always out front, but I was always feeling weird, and I would always have to go back and spend some time alone. But I didn't understand it because I wasn't saved. I didn't have a real relationship with God. I didn't have a relationship with God, not like a real one. I wasn't talking to him. I wasn't praying. I wasn't serious about God. And but I always felt this pull, and I would feel a little sad, and I would go by myself. And I don't want to be around people because I was always around people. But I couldn't understand why, but God would draw me back, which was some more preparation for later on in life. You know, in due season, you do understand things after you seek God. And as I got older, you know, I know I still needed to draw away. So when all of these things are happening, and I step out in front with the deaths, and you know, I had to step out in front when TYSHAWN was stabbed. I had to step out in front for the 5 days he was in a coma. I was talking to the doctors. I was talking to the nurses. I was trying to keep everybody together. And I mean, it was really, when people didn't understand it, they would ask me questions about it. They would say, that's amazing. I would say, amazing grace. Anything anybody said, there was a word, because there was nothing left in me. I was empty. On television, on the radio, I mean, different situations and different programs. I kept going, I kept going, I kept going. But I always knew that I had to come away. So during that time, as soon as I finished, in fact, TYSHAWN passed away in June, I was on a plane. I had one of TYSHAWN's t-shirts that the kids made, you know, with his face on it. So, somebody next to me on the plane, they read it and they said, is that your son? I mean, that's next month. And they couldn't believe it, but it was an opportunity for me to share the gospel. There were so many places that I went, and there's so many testimonies of, even in my exhaustion, where I was able to share the gospel. And I was able to give people hope. And as I was doing that, you know, I was running and I was running, but I always had to draw back. And that's what keeps me going. Since TYSHAWN passed away, I always have taken a sabbatical. I always had to go away. You know, I always had people that wanted to have me to come, like, so they can help me, so they can pour something back into me, like rest and relaxation. And that's really the way it has to be done. That's why today I always say balances and boundaries, baby. Balances and boundaries. I have to make up my mind. Like when I'm running, you know, we have these funerals back to back to back. I'm emotionally exhausted, but I do have to cut it down, and I have to cut it short, and I have to be serious about getting my rest, because my job is emotional. My ministry is emotional. After TYSHAWN passed, this ministry grew into people that was calling me for funerals. I mean, there was so, then it drew me to people just putting my name out there for parents. So I started to prepare people for the funerals, for the life celebration. In fact, when TYSHAWN passed away 9 months later, one of his friends, who's like a son to me, TYSHAWN's brother Tony, passed away. And when they asked me to do the service, I was like, I'm not ready to do this. 9 months is the time you have a child. 9 months, another one of my children's dying. It was like he was my child. His mother had already passed away, and now here I am trying to do this again. I'm not ready for this. And then his father said, well, who's going to do it? You're the one who's going to do it. Tony would want you to do it. And of course I knew I had to do it, because not only did I have to do it for their family, I had to do it for the DIP family. Somebody had to stand up there that was going to hold them together, because how could young men take that kind of tragedy so close together? How could my children deal with that kind of tragedy so close together? Tony was staying with Loren most of the time. He was a surrogate uncle to Anaya and Bryce. So what was I supposed to do but stand there? Somebody has to stand. So it was just my role to do the standing and to keep them together and to celebrate life. And the way I celebrate life and the gift of exaltation is to let people know the good stuff, the reason why we celebrate life. And we think about the good things and what they went through. And I tell some jokes, and I make it light and I make it funny. But there comes a times where I got to draw back. I got to get out of here. And there's a lot of times I go on vacation by myself. And I mean, I just started doing that when I was 60. You know, I started going on vacations where it was so many funerals, so many. I was officiating, eulogizing, that I had to step back and say, you know what, I got to do this by myself. And there's times by myself where I cried. I mean, my father taught me panic a little bit and cut it short. So now I have this thing like where I say, all right, that's enough. But when I went to Florida, when I was with my friend Sharon, I went to a church and I just cried. And she just cried with me. And that's what I suggest people do. You know, when somebody's going through and somebody's grieving, just show up. Just show up. There's so many cliches. There's so many things that people say that they think they're supposed to say. And they say it because they feel it's the right thing to say because they heard somebody else say it. I say show up and see what they need. Show up and be there for them. Just be there. Because then if they feel like crying, you can cry with them. If they feel like eating, you can prepare the food. You can set the table, you can do the dishes, but you know, just show up, because the things that people say, like, I know how you feel, nobody knows how anybody feels, because grieving is personal, it's unique as a personality. A lot of times I go to services, funerals, and people say, I'm sorry to see you here again. I'm sorry to see you this way. I'm glad to see you, but I'm sorry that this happened. And I say to them, well, if this didn't happen, I probably wouldn't have seen you. Because it's people that I haven't seen. And the only way I see them is at a funeral. So, I mean, we just say things, but we don't really think about what we're saying. You don't know what anybody's going through because it's not you, it's them. So we got to be careful about the grieving and how we grieve. Let people grieve in a personal way. I mean, it's something about this age 22. Even today, I'm hearing about a lot of young people that are passing away at 22, and I keep hearing that number over and over again. But when I think about TYSHAWN passing at 22, I remember that he was 17 when he got sick. He got sick at 17 in his last year of high school, getting a high fever, a high temperature after a basketball game, and they never found out what it really was, what was ill in him and how it affected him, and we went through a lot. And I remember praying, and TYSHAWN is praying with me, and he was so, I mean, he really had no energy, but he had energy enough to come into the living room and just sit there while I prayed. And I would lay prostrate across the floor and just pray. And I prayed hard. And with that illness, TYSHAWN went to college 1 year late. But nobody ever knew he was really ill because he never really talked about it, and we never really know what it was. We didn't even know what to call it. But the ironic part about it is that's 5 years between 17 and 22. And the word tells us that the number 5 means grace. So everything that happens to me, every worry, there's a word. So I equate that as part of the strength that I have to put things together. Then I thought about Joseph. Joseph in the Bible, he was 17 when he had a dream.
Are we done, Daddy?
No.
We love.
Hey.
We love.
Okay.